Notts County Talk, we are back with another live match preview. This time it's for an away trip to Altrincham, and if you looked at this fixture on paper, George, without being too cocky about it, if you looked at this on paper at the beginning of the season, you'd have said definite 3 points, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely would. It's a game. I know Bertrand said it's a must-win. Every game's a must-win now, but this one is probably the highest ranking of a must-win game, isn't it?
Yeah, we're at the point of the season where every game is now the most important game. Obviously, Torquay, massive game, but you look at this one now, Altrincham, you wouldn't have looked at this at the start of the season and said, actually, Altrincham is the biggest game, so far. It's a crazy one. So I'm not feeling too optimistic about it, but we've got a lot of interesting things to discuss this evening. We're joined again by Richard, been on the channel a number of times now this season, from Notts County Stats on Twitter. And he's got some really interesting points to bring up about the Easter game. So Richard, thank you very much for joining us again.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Since we last spoke, I think it was maybe pre-Torquay, maybe even a little bit before that.
Yeah.
Things have gone a bit pear-shaped, haven't they?
On the face of it looks like that. Yeah, for sure. It's, as a fan, when you're looking in and you're watching the games, and at the end of the day, the results are what have the biggest impact on you when you're a fan. And it's been difficult to take. But as well as those results have not been as we would have liked, I think there's definitely been some positives to pull out of those games as well. It's been tough for Ian and Mo since they came in, because they've I know this has been discussed many times by many people, but it probably wasn't an ideal time for them to come in, so it was a tough start for them. If you're coming into a club with a team that's struggling, that's not winning games, that's everything's going wrong for them, it's a lot easier to start that upward tick and that upward trajectory with results and performances, because there's always some low-hanging fruit that you can get your hands onto, to try and improve things quite quickly.
Yeah, that managerial bounce.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've kind of trundled along this season, really, and performances in general throughout the whole season have been very, very similar. And in some respects, you look at some of the results that Neil Ardley got, and you wonder how on earth he managed to get those results. Equally, there's games that we've not won in the last half a dozen or so, and you wonder how on earth did we not, get something from those games. And it is a bit of a conundrum. So, I mean, the Eastleigh one, I'm still waiting for the XG data to come in from the people that I get that from. But just when I was working it out myself, there's absolutely no way that we should have lost that game. Absolutely no way whatsoever. Okay. The performance was good. And it was the same old thing again, taking our eye off the ball a little bit defensively, some not great marking for the first goal, and then unfortunately Connell had that little bit of a slip with the second, which let the guy in. I still think the keeper could have probably done a little bit better from there with it, but as Ian Birchnell was saying in one of his interviews, they've had 2 shots on goal.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And scored from them,
it's difficult.
So it's just trying to get your head out of this. For me, when I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the stats and things, I'm first and foremost, I'm a fan. I'm a Notts County supporter. I want them to win every single game. I don't care how they win it sometimes. And I was screaming at my screen, at the Eastleigh game the same as any other fan, with frustration and annoyance and everything else as well, because that's what you do. That's what football's about. It's emotive and as a fan. But when you let the dust settle and you start to look at, analyze it a little bit, and you start to look at some of the data and you rerun some of the game if you can, if you've got that video available to you, you can then start to actually sort of pick stuff out and think, hang on a minute, to be fair, up until then, they couldn't touch us. Yeah. Why couldn't they touch us? Because of X, Y, and Z or whatever, And I think when Ian's being interviewed and he's saying things like, I've got to, we've got to sit and have another closer look at the videos and things like that. It's not that they're trying to win games by just watching players on videos. There's an awful lot of analysis going into what they're looking at, and you're going to have to look at certain circumstances in games, 50, 100 times to try and understand how you can make sure that doesn't happen again, or you can do it better, or whatever. So I think it's unfortunate that we've had the run of results that we've had just lately since Ian and Mo came in, and I really feel for them, because although they're not completely blameless at the end of the day, they're in charge of the team now. They're on the sideline. They can still have an influence. They can make substitutions. They pick the team. They're all factors that still play into this, and they've got the ability to have that influence still. But there are definite improvements in the way that this team of players are playing now. You can see that when, like he was saying, when they are being brave and they're on the front foot, that they're pretty much untouchable.
I think you've got some. Have you got some stats for the Eastleigh game, Richard?
Well, what I'm from the Eastleigh game. Obviously, if you just bear with me 1 second, I can just pull something up over here.
Yeah, just while you grab that, I just want to ask George very quickly. We say this on most of our live previews. We do our videos instantly, don't we, from the full-time whistle? How have you reflected since then?
What Richard said's true. Like, your instant reaction, and I like you say, we literally turn the camera around to us, don't we? We watch the games on our phones or on our TV, and then the camera's straight on us, and it's literally an instant reaction, and the player ratings is instant as well. So your emotions are sky high. When the dust settles, like we've said, and you have more time to reflect and maybe watch a bit more of the game, if you can obviously watch a bit more of the game or the highlights, you can sort of see that first half we played quite well. And you do sort of forget that. Like we was watching that first half thinking, we were all right. We played quite well that first half. As everyone knows, me and Tom talked to each other throughout the game. But then it's like you just sort of forget that, because feels like it's pointless playing well in the first half if you're going to leave the pitch, losing by 2 goals. And we've had open chances in that game to put the game to bed in the first half. Absolutely. I think the worrying thing for me is like there obviously is a change going in the right direction. Definitely, I think that the style is changing a little bit, and I think we are improving as a side. But it's been a problem all season. The final third has been an issue all season. The quality of finishing, that final ball, the decision making near the 18-yard box has been off pretty much all season, and the last 3-4 games, it's cost us, hasn't it? Really,
it's cost us since Hartlepool. It's cost us since Hartlepool. I think it's probably cost us before. We've dug our way out of it somehow, but now the luck's sort of turning. I mean, you've got McDonald playing for Eastleigh, who's made 3 world-class saves. When we went up to Hartlepool last season, he literally threw the ball in our own net. He literally threw it in our own goal. I mean, you can't get much worse than that.
No. I mean, if I can just looking back over the season, for example, and trying to explain how the stats can paint a different picture to what's actually happening, just very briefly. We, earlier on in the season and up until midway through the season, we were, as a team, probably flattering to deceive a bit. We we'd got a very resolute defence. Some of that was down to fortune. We'd got a very resolute defence, but we just weren't creating chances. So even though we were winning games, getting draws, putting points on the board, we weren't putting up any trees, and it just really wasn't sustainable. Something had to change. And if I can just give you a few examples of this.
Yeah.
If we go right back a little bit to Barnet at home. Yeah.
Well, remember the game well, yeah.
Yeah, okay. We won that game, what, 4-2?
Yeah.
When you look at the actual expected goal side of things and expected points, and you look at all of the factors that are taken into consideration when you're looking at what they call the fair score table, that game should have been a draw. We should never have won that game.
Sorry, Richard, very quickly. I remember a comment in one of the previous videos that I didn't pull up, and it was a question for you. It was could you briefly explain for a couple of people what expected goals is?
Right. Okay. Sure. So the easiest way to explain it is all of us have been to a game, watched a game of football, walked away and gone, how on earth did we not win that? Us more regular than most, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
Because when you're watching a game of football, you're actually doing a kind of mental XG anyway when you're doing it. You know, like if we take, for example, the game against Eastleigh, you mentioned those 3 point blank saves. You know, you've got the likes of Carl Wotton, who's in there 6 yards out with a diving header, and the keeper saves it and that sort of thing. So if you take that chance on its own, XG means expected goals. So based on where Kyle was at that time, and the ball came over to him, the situation he was in, how far away he is from the goal, where the goalkeeper stood, if he was going to shoot, whether his left foot is his weakest foot or his right foot, which is his strongest foot. All these factors come together to give you a percentage of, if you consider a goal is a value of 1, then you'll have a percentage of 0.2, for example. You know, there's probably a 20% chance that somebody's going to score a goal in that situation. Or, you know, the header that Griffiths had that McDonald made that amazing save from as well. You know, I'm expecting the XG on that to be quite high, probably, you know, 0.5 or above, because again, he was half a dozen yards out, literally an open goal, just the keeper to beat. He did everything right, but the keeper still managed to save it. You know, if you were stood on the goal line, no goalkeeper there, you're not offside, nobody around you, and all you've got to do is toe poke it in, you've got no chance of missing, then that's going to score a full 1 expected goal. So it's essentially what we're saying is what is the likelihood that person was going to score that goal at that time, given all the circumstances surrounding it. Okay. Now, some of it's quite subjective, because there are other people that have XG formulas that has nothing to do with that, and they take into consideration the fact that a team's had more dangerous attacks and they've put more corners in or whatever, you know, and they'll formulate something like that. The XG I use, and the reason I pay for it is because the company that I get it from, they sit, and the reason I always get it a couple of days late is because it's National League, and the videos that become available are always a day later than everybody else. They sit and they watch every game, all the key highlights, all the chances, and study it and determine what the XG is for each one of those chances. And that's the other thing as well. There's a difference between a shot on goal and a chance sometimes as well, because a chance might be that, you know, Carl Wotton's just an inch away from getting his toe end on a ball, you know, from a fantastic cross from the right or whatever. That's a big chance, but it's not a shot on goal. So that becomes part of the XG formula as well. So hopefully that's kind of explained it.
Spot on. So back to the Barnet one then. It was a draw, did you say?
Yeah, so that was just one example. Then you go Weymouth away, we won 1-0. When you look at the stats and the expected goals and the win percentages on that, we should have lost that game. Weymouth should have won that game, and we won 1-0. And we won 1-0 because we had a ridiculous wonder goal that wasn't meant from Sam on the left wing. if you remember rightly. He lobbed that one over, and it just happened to go in the top corner,
Yeah.
And these are, then I'll take another one. We lost 2-1 away at Solihull. We were all over them. We should have won that game. There's no way we should have lost that game. I'm expecting exactly the same from the Eastleigh game at last weekend. It's exactly the same for the Torquay game. We drew 2-2. They got those late goals, but when you look at the data and you're putting it into this fair score table, that was a Notts win every day of the week. And so if I go back to when I was talking about, I feel a little bit sorry for Ian and Mo. It's because I don't think people fully understand maybe how the owners look at the game. Their business is in football statistics. It's statistics for betting, and it's all about the numbers, and they will be looking at this fair score table, and that's how they'll be judging performances and what have you. So, you look at Neil Ardley's record this season, the 27 league games that he had, he accrued 46 points in 27 games. But in actual fact, if you look at it from a performance point of view, and the data and the statistics around how that game should have played out, he's actually accrued 7 points more than he should have done for those 27 games.
I think performances show that as well. I would agree. If you just said, did Ardley or did we gain more points than we should have, I would personally have said, just at the top of my head, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a very interesting way of looking at things as well, because I think, especially at the moment, I mean, you look at Ardley's record and you look at how many games he lost this season, and then you're looking sort of at how many games we've lost recently under Birchnell. There's obviously going to be a lot of questions asked by fans because that's the nature of football.
Of course.
But looking at it from that perspective, where the owners are going to be looking at it in terms of statistics and expected goals, actually, it doesn't actually look that bad, does it? When you're thinking of the games we have lost, like Torquay,
No, that was not at all.
I think most Notts fans are going into that thinking, if we get a point out of that game, we've done really well. And it's a game we should have won, like you said, on paper. Yeah. I mean, you're watching that pure frustration leaving that game, wasn't it?
But again, with Ian and Mo's record, the 8 games in the league that they've had so far this season, they've got 7 points. Based on the data that I get and working through that and creating this fair score situation, they should have had 15 points.
And then it's a completely different picture then, and you're still staying with a chance of first place. The way I look at it as well is when you've got these stats like expected goals, it's sort of like you look at it like you said, a percentage chance of scoring. The better you are on the stats, eventually it's going to come good, because it's like you're stacking the odds in your favour. I mean, if you've got a 70% chance based on the stats of winning the game and a 30 of losing and you've lost, the next time, if you play the same way, you've got a chance of winning. We are putting the performances in, and your stats back that up. I just think, things haven't fallen. That's the way football is. Things haven't fallen at the minute. I think.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
On the flip side of that, though, obviously, of recent, the performances have been better. Do you think there's any personnel change that could happen in terms of like the players we have in the squad that could improve the results?
I do, and I agree with something. I think on your instant reaction from the game, George, you mentioned about a lack of flair in the team, players that can make things happen. And there's been a lot of talk about, Enzio's done next to nothing this season, but I don't think it's an odd one. He's been given starts, but he's been made to play in a very defensive role most of the time in that, 5 across the middle. And that's not where you want him. You don't want him there. You want him expending all his energy at the top end of the pitch, scaring the life out of their back 4 or 5, There's been talk about Ruben and Sam, and are they up to it, and this, that, and the other. I have no doubt in my mind that in the right formation and given a proper run in the team, that Ruben Rodriguez would be, if we've got a fit Callum Roberts as well, the two of them would absolutely rip this league apart, given the chance, in the right formation. You've got people like Carl Wotton up there, and if you've got an Enzio as well, a Callum Roberts and a Ruben Rodriguez, these guys can make the difference, and we haven't had that, and we haven't seen that so far this season. And again, with Eli, Sam, I know he's a bit of an enigma. He really is a bit of an enigma. But he's one of those players that you can watch for 45, 60 minutes and think, what on earth is he doing on the pitch? And then he just does something absolutely ridiculous that wins you a game, like the Weymouth game. He's that kind of player. I think against Oxford City, and that obviously he had that scorpion kick and what have you in the trophy. But I remember at half time, we looked pitiful against them. And
didn't he got a very good finish? Was it Halifax? Reeves played him in.
Yeah.
So he's got that as well.
But people were saying at half time, get Sam off. No, on Twitter, I don't know what he's there for. And I was saying, hang on, I wouldn't take him off, because he's the kind of player that can suddenly have one moment of magic that will change the game. And he did. He scored his first goal, where he beat about 3 defenders and slipped it under the keeper. And then obviously his second goal was just ludicrous anyway. But that's the kind of player he is. So it's not like we haven't got those sort of flair players in the team that can make a difference. And I'd like to think, after the interview that Ian gave and the interview that Mo's given recently as well, where people like Ruben have been mentioned, there was a few bits of finger pointing about not doing what they should do in training, not putting the effort in and this sort of thing. But then Mo's talking about, well, we've got somebody there in Ruben that, given, if we need to understand how we can make him more comfortable in his whole surrounding, his environment, so that his football improves, and because they know they've got a raw talent there with him, and this is part and parcel of, I think, of what the owners are trying to achieve as well. And it's very difficult, because everybody wants success now. Everybody wants it to happen now. And the run of results that we've had have probably been a little bit worse since Ian and Mo have been in than I'd have expected. But I didn't see them making a massive difference straight away, because I've been watching how this team generally has been performing throughout the season from the stats. There's a definite trend of expected goals against had always been very, very low. We'd always been able to keep other teams away. We were very resilient, but we weren't creating a great deal. The guys have come in, they've made us much more creative. They've got them playing on the front foot for most part of the game. But in some respects, it's at the expense of what's happening at the back now. And if we can get the back right, and if Kyle can start finding his shooting boots again and what have you, I think we'll be okay. And we're at a time now, if we can put a good win in against Altrincham on coming up this weekend, if we can get a good win in against those guys this weekend, really build the confidence up. We've got Sutton to follow that, even a draw. There's no reason we shouldn't be drawing that game. I still think we could probably win that, because they're a bit up and down at the moment. And then I think we've got Maidenhead after that. We've still got games there that, before we start playing Bromley twice and what have you, coming into the final run-in, we can really start to build the momentum. And the timing of it could be quite weird, actually, that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, with a couple of games we've got in hand on some people, you suddenly find us 5th, 6th, around there in the playoffs, and actually the form team in the playoffs.
We've got Barnet still to play as well. And of any season I remember, if, like, I'd being a Notts fan, don't want to jinx it, but if there is a team that you should be nailed on beating, it's Barnet this season. They are being pummeled left, right, and centre. I know they got a win recently, but definitely. Going back to that thing you said about a bit of flair in your video, George. The thing I want to see is the opportunity to see a little link being made between Rodriguez and Knight. I think that could be fantastic. We saw Knight's pace, didn't we? Me and you were saying, as soon as he knocked it around that player, we both said almost at the same time, we couldn't believe he backed himself to do that, and he pretty much made it. Ball recovering defender is away. I think if we saw a link, Rodriguez playing the ball through tonight, I think that could be a secret weapon. That could be dangerous.
I think for me that the most bitterest taste of my mouth I have at the moment is I just feel like it sort of feels like the tides are against us a little bit, doesn't it? Obviously with Roberts picking up that injury, he's been obviously coming back and then back into injury, coming back into injury. I feel like there's some partnerships that haven't developed that would have been fantastic at Notts. Rodriguez and Cal Roberts being one of those. I think if they could consistently play together, they could be an absolutely lethal pair. And same with Enzio. I feel like Enzio could mold himself into that, like the trio, and it really could have been special. So I'm hoping, it can all sort of fall into place. And I mean, hopefully we change formation, because I don't really like this formation. Do you?
I don't think we're changing now. I think he's set his stall out. The fact we had a week between fixtures and he still played the formation, for me, that's done and dusted. We're playing that to the end of the season. And the personnel he gets in next season, regardless of what division we're in, is gonna. Then we'll see what formation he'll play. But at the minute, I think he's set his stall out with that. Definitely.
That's
I think he thinks. Sorry. Yeah, I think he feels comfortable that that's the safe option for him with the players he's got available to him at the moment, especially without not having someone like Cal Roberts available, so he could go to his probably preferred attacking 4-3-3 that he's generally played, and when he's coached throughout his career. Keeping to this 5-man midfield that gives him that option to defend and attack with those wing backs, it gives him a safer option. But they just need to be on the front foot more. They need, like he said, they've got to continue to be brave and just keep going and keep going and keep going. And what was happening, we saw it in the Torquay game. Second half, we'd got the wind behind us. We've got everything in our favour. We just needed to keep pressing and pressing and pressing. And then all of a sudden, once we got that second goal, we just suddenly, we got a back five all of a sudden, and instead of a back three, and everybody was sitting deep, and it became like a training session a little bit where they were just practicing the defending. And we didn't want that. They needed to keep pushing and pushing. They've got to kill games off. And there's just that little bit of confidence that's missing at the moment, I think. And that's why this weekend against Altrincham, it's a fantastic opportunity for the guys to put down the marker again, for these players to, let's get a few goals on the board.
No,
and I know that sounds a bit big-headed and a bit dismissive of Altrincham and everything, and I don't want to be, but this is the mentality that they've got to have.
Yeah, now this has been a really positive 28 minutes. For a team that's not 1 in 5, I don't think, and that's 1 point from 15. To be fair, this has been a positive 28 minutes, and I don't want to be that fan, but I want to bring it back. George, it gets to the end of the game on Saturday, and say we've lost. Where do we go from there? What does that leave us with? We've lost to a side. I think they've lost in four straight games, I believe. Altrincham. Where does that leave us, George?
I don't know. It's such a difficult one, isn't it?
Because this is a possibility that this could happen.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's a possibility. Anything could happen, couldn't it? We've seen that this season. I think it's gonna raise some eyebrows, isn't it, if we lose to Altrincham on Saturday. It just depends on the performance for me. I think if there's signs there, we're all on top for a lot of the game, and we have those chances, I do feel like there's only so much Birchland and Mo can do, really. We've had so many chances to just easy chances, like Richard said, from the 6-yard box that you'd be backing players to score. There's only so much they can do, and even Audley was saying it in his last presser. He said it after Yeovil. There's only so much I can do as a manager. I've never worked so hard. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So for me, it's not so much no matter how the season goes now. I mean, it could go seriously wrong and we lose the rest of the games. Whatever, the questions are going to be asked of Birchnell, but I think the real question lies with the players. I don't think it can come down to the manager. But in terms of the season, I don't know. I don't know. It'd concern me if we lost on Saturday, I think.
Yeah, it'd be massive. It would be I almost think that would affect mentality more than the Torquay comeback. I think to lose, and the players aren't stupid. They know that they should be beating Altrincham, and they should be probably winning by a couple of goals in this situation.
Yeah.
So I think that would be more damaging than the comeback against Torquay.
Yeah, I don't think, and if we did lose, I don't think any talk of expected goals and actually winning on paper and everything would have much merit with anybody. So,
I think the Twitter boycott would actually probably work in their favour. Yeah, it's a difficult one, and I am feeling quite positive for the game, but there's always that little doubt in my mind that this is Notts County, and we also lost to Hornchurch about 3 weeks ago. So, and literally anything is possible. Quickly, Richard, before I let you go, you sort of said it out that you think this is a real opportunity for Notts. How exactly do you see the Altrincham game panning out?
I would like to think that they're going to go for it flat out. I believe they will do, because I think that's the way that Ian Birchnell wants them to play. They just need to play with that intensity and that attacking intent for 90 minutes. And if there is a slip up at the back and we do go a goal down or whatever, it's not letting those heads drop, and that's my biggest concern. I think we get the first goal, and then it's like a weight off the shoulders. And I'd like to think that we'd open up a little bit then, and we could go for a second or a third and probably get a 2-3-0 win. But we've got to get that first goal. If we don't score that first goal, it's going to be a massive uphill struggle, because just purely from a player mentality point of view, you can see that confidence just suddenly, it's almost as if, I can't believe this is happening again, and that confidence just drains from them, and we really don't want to see that. So we've got to be in their faces straight away, get that first goal, and I think we do that, we could be 2 or 3-0.
Yeah,
that's how I see it.
Final question then, Richard. Yes or no? Would you start Kyle Wootton on Saturday?
100% yes. He's done absolutely nothing in my mind to think that he shouldn't be on that team sheet every week, every game. He's hit a bit of a barren spell, but I'll tell you what, do not underestimate the amount of work that lad does on that pitch for the team. Honestly, he's an absolute man mountain, that guy is. And I've got every confidence that it can go in off his backside, off his knee or whatever, I don't care. He'll get a goal, and once he gets one again, that'll be it. Again, it's that weight off the shoulders, and there'll be no stopping him. So I think resting him would be the worst thing we could do.
Yeah,
the worst thing that we could do.
Very clear message, Richard. It's been fantastic. Some great insight. Really appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks for asking me again. Really enjoyed it. Thanks.
No, it's fantastic, and we'll have you back on the channel again soon. Cheers, Richard.
Brilliant. Richard. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, George. Now, there's a lot of comments coming in, and that's why I brought the Wootton point up. Very split. Some people saying Wootton yes, Wootton no. We've obviously got our team. We'll go through that now. So many comments tonight. It is quite positive. It's fairly positive to say the position we're in, and it is all about reflection. So we'll go to the team. I'll start with that back five. So we've got stealing goal. Yes, he could have done it a little bit better. Kelly Evans, we don't think Brinley's quite fit, do we? Not quite ready for it. Well, not 100%, but Rawlinson, who I said should have been dropped in my player ratings, and I gave him a 4.5. Makes the team, but we'll say you bullied me into that one. Ellis, playing with one eye, was still probably the best centre back, and then
probably the best centre forward we've got at the minute.
Yeah, and then Turner, because of we're not 100% sure about Lacey, are we?
No, there's not really been loads of news, has there, really, from the little injuries that we do have, like Lacey and O'Brien. So obviously we're doing it a day early to beat the boycott over the weekend. So there's not the news obviously hasn't been released as of yet for injuries. So we're sort of basing this off the injuries that we do have are still there.
Yeah, then we go Chickson, left wing back. Chickson's been fantastic since he's come in. Midfield three, Reeves, Griffiths, Doyle. I thought the midfield three on Tuesday, I personally said in my video, I don't have any blame for those three. I think that
I thought they were good.
The issues came from not taking chances and not defending well enough or sloppy mistakes. So I'm happy with that. Yeah. And then Richard's just given like a very clear indication that he would start Wootton. We actually would not rest him, put him on the bench and bring him on, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I think the main reasoning behind this, and we're not undermining Wootton in any way, but you look when Knight and Knowles did play, was it Woking?
Yeah.
The finish in that day was unbelievable, wasn't it? Really, we scored 4 goals. Knowles got a hat trick. So I'm just sort of hoping if we do see something like that, I don't think we will. I think Wootton will start because I think a lot of people, including Bertrand and Mo, would sort of have the same thinking as Richard. In that he does work a lot. He does work a lot.
And that's improved. That's improved in recent weeks as well.
Yeah, it has. But I feel like Knight and Knowles will stretch defences so much and it causes problems. And we saw that against Woking. So I would personally be interested to see how those two fare within that team. I think with Reeves, Griffiths and Doyle behind. And also I wouldn't mind seeing Rodriguez sort of playing number 10 behind those.
We can dream.
Yeah.
Rodriguez in the 10 behind those two, and I'll pay for 50 streams to watch that because that's what I've been wanting to see for so long.
It's too far.
So long. No, he's class. So yeah, I think people say Lacey and O'Brien out this weekend. That's our lineup. Obviously, it's a game of opinions. Some people would, for instance, start Pilling, or they'll put Chickson at centre back instead of Turner, or a lot of you start Wootton. But that's sort of our mixture of what we think might happen and what we would like to see. So I'll go into the scores. Our score predictions, George.
2-0 Notts. I think we've just got to get a win now. If we don't get a win now, it'll be winless in 6. It doesn't sound great, does it, for a team that's going for playoffs? It doesn't sound great for a team that's fighting for relegation, really, does it? But I'm going Knowles to get 2. He's been good. The games he has played, been really good actually. Standout good, I think, in most of the games that he has played. So I think he'll pick up a couple of goals. Yeah,
fair enough. I'm going for a 3-1 win. I think Wootton will come off the bench and get a goal finally. And I also think Knight might weigh in with a couple. Now, Knight's been slowly improving in my eyes. And we've seen a bit more confidence from him. The reason I think, it seems on paper, get 3 goals. We're not going to get 3 goals. But like Richard's been talking about, if we take our chances, we're scoring. We're scoring sort of 2 or 3 a game if we take our chances. And I think, I'm a big believer in things will eventually, a run will come to an end. So I'm going for the win. Notts' bad run will come to an end. Wootton's goal drought will come to an end. And at the same time, Notts' knack of not scoring will come to an end.
When do they score their goal?
We're already 3 up, comfortable 3 up. We're all celebrating. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
We're all celebrating. I think it'll be frustrating. That's why I've gone for Wootton to get the first. I think he'll come on, maybe half time and we'll be frustrated, but I think we'll get the 3-1 win. So if you've got any score predictions, just pop those in the chat. Now we'll flick those up in a minute, but as George has already alluded to, we are standing with the club this weekend in a boycott of social media beginning from Friday at 3 p.m. and ending at 11:59 on Monday evening. Now that means there'll be no content from us and no match preview, which obviously we absolutely love doing this channel. So it's not something we want to do. We just feel that, the abuse that is going out online at the minute and in all walks of life, but generally in football, whether you agree with a boycott or not, and whether you think it will do something, I think it's just important that the football community stand together. And we want to support, obviously, the club we love in that. So that's our reasons behind it. And we will definitely be back for content after the Sutton game. So that's our stance on that. And as of 3 p.m. tomorrow, we will not be active on social media, and that includes YouTube. Now, putting a few score predictions up. Keaton says 1-0, Mark Ellis. Mick says 3-0 Knots.
Love it.
We'll go 1-0. Knowles to score. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Football. There's probably, you know, 90% of fans saying, "I'm never watching a stream again," and then here we all are predicting victories without a winning 5. That's why we love it. We've got a 2-0 Knots here. Keaton's changed his mind now. He's saying 3-1. Ellis won a night. You know, there's positivity. That's why we love football. I feel like we could be on a 10-game losing streak and we'll probably still predict a victory. Really big game opportunity, as we've already alluded to go out there, make a statement, and get our season back on track. As always, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and